Welcome to Ask Earl Anything. This is a show where your questions make the show. Without your questions, I don't have a show. This is for February 2025. This is actually my official show that makes 8 years of doing Ask Earl Anything. In those 8 years, I have gone from being a YouTube drummer that makes drum covers and occasionally talks on camera about equipment and all that good stuff, to one day about 8 years ago where I got tired of answering questions in the comments and I decided, you know what? I'm going to start a show and I'm going to call it Ask Earl Anything. And I know how pretentious it is. I've been told it's pretentious by a few people. But in actuality, it kind of implies that I know everything. As any of you that watch this show know, I totally don't know everything. I have my opinions about things. And the internet is full of people that have opinions, so having a show where you have opinions about things isn't a bad thing on the internet. Matter of fact, that's one of the things that people really like about the internet. When I started doing this, I was basically listening to the opinions of some of the drummers that I watched back, for 5 years on YouTube, the beginning of YouTube, in studios similar to mine or less than or more than mine, sometimes basements. And they were talking about cymbals and drums, and it kind of excited me. So I realized I could do it too. So I've been doing this now for 8 years, and it is exciting, the fact that it is 8 years. Now, I told you at my 10,000 subscriber video, where I talked also about my first copyright strike, I said, and last Ask Earl Anything, I said that this Ask Earl Anything, I was going to define a new path, what we're doing. Now, the new path isn't that different from the old path. I will continue to do drum covers. I don't believe it will be daily. At some point, daily will kind of fall off. I'll be lucky if I have 3 or 4 or 5 a week, of videos put out. That was a little bit of me doing Jeff, by the way, in case you're wondering, that thing that Jeff does in his video. Yeah, you got to watch it. Watch the Jeff Porcaro video. That's supposed to be an hour. It's only 30 minutes. It's kind of hesitates a little bit. I had that same thing, probably the onions repeating from lunch with my wife. By the way, this is the second time I'm doing this today. I'm trying out some new equipment and new technology. So my first attempt at it was pretty good, but the clipping microphone started to bother me. I'll tell you about that in a second. So let me finish my intro. So what I'm saying is, I got some ideas from different things. Matter of fact, I asked for some ideas last show. And last show, I got some good ideas. I'm going to explain some of them here. I'm going to talk about some of the upgrades I'm going to do to this show to kind of make it better. I'm not quite there this month, even though I am working with a new lavalier mic, okay, that I bought for my show and my wife's show. And it came after I met Kelly Kusumato, KM Can Drum, here at my studio in the beginning of January. So I also got a little clip of Kelly playing some drums. At the end, you'll actually hear him, but Kelly was here in the studio. He interviewed me in the studio. That interview is going to come out probably this week that I'm going to put this out, at least the first part of this. And that's what I'm getting into. So Kelly had these DJI mics, and I saw them and I thought, well, let me try them. He had the more expensive ones. I had the less expensive ones. I bought them. Didn't realize I needed a special adapter for an iPhone to make it work. I tried it with Bluetooth. It was kind of ridiculous. Didn't really work. The iPhone version has a receiver, and the receiver has a gain adjustment. So my gain adjustment for the last segment I did, which was very good, by the way, was 40 minutes of me being top of my game, okay, and I'm tossing it. I'm doing it again. The reason for that is I want the audio to sound right. Now, so I bought this lavalier mic, and this is one way I will do Ask Earl Anything. But the other thing I've realized after Kelly was here and this idea of changing directions a little bit, was I want to do more on-camera demonstrations of things that are important to me. And some of you guys gave me some of those ideas for things that are important to me that I want to do. So I realized this mic is not going to work for that, and I'm going to prove that to you. This is me playing a straight up groove, and it's all coming through this mic that's right here. Sorry, did that first show and the second show. Anyhow, thank you, Kelly Cusimano, for this little Paiste 6-inch cup chime, which looks so cute on my kit, and I had to hit it and thank Kelly for it. While Kelly was here, he handed me this, said, hey, I got this extra one, and he gave it to me. So it actually works perfectly. Did you know Jeff Beccaro, in one of his setups closer to the end, he had a cup chime and a splash over here? I think it was a 6. It was a real small little one. It's a cute little thing. It looks cute too. Anyhow, when you hear the drum groove coming through this microphone, it's compressed, and it really doesn't sound very good. So a lot of times when you guys ask me questions, can you demonstrate this, can you demonstrate that, it doesn't really come through the camera mic. It might come through the camera mic better than this mic, but it doesn't come through the way I want it to come through. So for me to actually do a show where I have the drums sounding as good as my drum covers will require me to run a microphone to speak into that I can turn on and off. So after I bought this, I thought to myself, this isn't going to work. So I bought one of these. This is a mic mute. And believe it or not, the input and the output goes to the board. The input goes into here for the microphone. I'll put the microphone off to the side. I'll talk into it. And when I have to go to playing, I'll click the foot, and then I'll play. And this will turn it off. And then I will turn it back on. And the interesting thing is I'll probably have my in-ears on, so I'll actually be monitoring it, what's going to the thing, what's not going in. And that'll help me, that'll be helpful too in actually knowing how it's doing. So I've got a plan for doing more playing on camera. Because some of you guys said, I want you to talk about concepts, things about your playing that you can share with others. And that's really where I want to go with this channel. I want to start doing more of that. Not necessarily lessons, but I'm going to call them Earl's concepts. Because one of the things that's really clear to me, and if you watch me play covers, is that I have a certain style. I try to emulate Jeff Beccaro or Steve Gadd or Russ Kunkel or Rick Marotta or Ed Green. But I am not those guys, or Jim Gordon. I try to pick up things from their style, but I am still Earl, and I have a certain feel. So I'm going to talk about how I develop my feel and how you can develop your personal feel. That's where I want to go with some of this. So those will be little small drum talk type videos, or I'll have some new name for it. And I really want to have some fun with that this year. So you're going to see more content that is me playing without utilizing somebody else's content, which will get me a copyright strike. So if that makes sense. So when Kelly was here, we had a great time together. We hung out. He actually interviewed me. He had 2 hours worth of material. I have no idea how he's going to cut that down. But we were both here in the studio talking. So I'm really looking forward to seeing hearing what it sounds like and hearing what we talked about and the conversations we got into. And maybe I'll be able to share it with you. If you're not a subscriber of Kelly's, I'm going to leave Kelly's. He's going to be in this video, of course. So you can click on KM Ken Drum and subscribe. And that video of me and that interview will be up real soon. All right. So here's the other thing. Ask Earl Anything is going to go to twice a month. That's the starting point. I have enough questions today to go about an hour and a half. But I never get you guys to watch an hour and a half of video. Matter of fact, I'm probably lucky if I get you guys to watch, on average, 10, 15 minutes. You find the segment you want to see, and then you watch it, and that's it. So thank you all that watch my videos. So I'm going to make shorter Ask Earl Anythings. So today's Ask Earl Anything, I am going to have 2 videos. And I'm going to go through probably all the questions today. That's my goal. After doing this is my second time doing this. First time I cut it at halfway, and then I listened, and I was like, the clipping audio kind of bothered me. So I'm doing this again. But when I say I'm doing it again, I'm going to end up with 2 videos out of this with 2 endings, and it'll be interesting. So that's the goal here. Let's jump into the questions. I have a lot of questions to cover. Half the questions will be the first video, and the second half will come on the second video. I'll drop somewhere in the middle of the month, and let's jump right on in. This was a question from right after Ask Earl Anything happened, or right before Ask Earl Anything was released, because it was a question from January 3rd. Came from Maddie's Reviews 6612. And Maddie's asked me a question. He said, "Hey mate, I'm new to drum thrones. I bought the Donner one. It's a little wobbly. Is that normal for drum thrones?" Now, I don't know. This guy might actually do reviews, so I might have to check his channel out. Of course, I will leave a link to Maddie's Reviews 6612. Let's talk about the Donner drum throne. First off, I'm sitting on it today. And when I sat down on it, because this is normally on my little kit over there, which you will see my little kit today. I have a little clip of me playing some stuff on the little kit, because one of the things I've been working on this month to prepare for having a mic and teaching some little lessons is I've set up the little kit with microphones. So I've got 4 microphones on that kit right now. I did a couple drum covers. One was the Ramones. I did another one, which was, I actually did Let There Be Drums, Sandy Nelson, on that kit originally. But I only did it with 3 mics, and I didn't like the sound of it, so I recut it on this one. But there was a third one I did. It was a song by a band called Jet. Don't You Want to Be My Girl, or something like that. It came out really well on that. Matter of fact, I did it for my friend Bruce Holiday, and Bruce loved the way the drums sound. So that kit's like tuned up like more jazzy. So it has a certain vibe to it. This is more dead studio-ish kind of thing, and that's more dead 70s kind of ish. But with that being said, you'll see a little bit of that kit. But what was happening was I normally have the Donner seat on that kit. That's my kit I go to like when I want to just play a little bit and goof around. Even though I do that on this kit and I do that on that kit too. I do it all over the place, but I have lots of options. That's the fun thing about my studio is I have lots of places to go mess around. So the Zildjians are over there and the Donner seat was there. But before this, I put the Donner seat down to sit here and kind of, just do the show from the Donner seat. Right now, there's no wobble in it, Maddie's. The reason why there's no wobble on it is because you have to use a wrench and you have to tighten it down so tight that it doesn't move. That's the key to this. Hand tightening it, it will loosen up. And if the top's coming on and off, that's probably going to loosen up. So you need to get a good wrench, and you need to tighten it down really tight, and it doesn't move for a while. Eventually, the vibrations of you being on it means you got to do it again. For the most part, this seat, after a year, I can tell you, it works fine. It's not tough on my rear end to sit here. I like the seat. It's comfortable, but I probably wouldn't take it out of the studio because of the wobble effect, like you said. I don't like the wobble effect either, and if you're wobbling on a seat, it bothers you. There are better seats. Remember, the Donner seat, the one that I talked about, which is for up to 450 pounds, which I am not that, but it holds heavy-duty seat. That seat, particular seat with the wobble effect, would be annoying to me, okay? So if you don't have a good wrench and tighten it down, you might have problems with that seat. So I would probably take on a gig my rockin' sock because it's rock solid and never wobbles. I don't deal with the wobble. I do deal with the thing because it's a piano stool style. It does spin after a while, and when it spins, it goes down, and I sit lower. Right now, I'm sitting higher. You'll notice in my videos, sometimes I'm up a little higher and sometimes a little lower. It's because I'm lazy and I don't adjust my seat all the time. And I don't lock it properly, apparently. So that's another problem. So, yes, you don't want your seat to kind of wobble. The best way to do it is to lock it down. But if you lock it down good with a wrench and really get it down, it probably will be really good for you, and it does work. Now, for the price range we're talking about, under $100. I don't think there's a better seat for under $100, in my opinion. Now, you want to talk about good seats? There's lots of really expensive ones that are much better than this Donner seat. So keep that in mind. If you want to spend good money, and I say spend good money on your throne. But I have 3 thrones in the studio. I got 3 kits, 3 thrones. With 3 thrones, I want to make sure that the thrones I have work fine. Now, if I was Mike Fasano, studio rental business, I'm sure he has like all rockin' socks. I've never asked him that question. So I need to ask Mike Fasano that question. Hey, Mike, what thrones do you bring on your kits for cartage? And I bet they're rockin' sock, because rockin' socks are really solid thrones. So you want a good throne if you're doing a lot of traveling, a lot of gigging. But if you're just a hobbyist, the Donner throne, and you don't have a lot of money to throw at it, it will work, but you got to do a little bit of work on it, upkeep. All right. The next question or comment comes from Sunrise Blues 5150. Hey, Earl, I think it's a fantastic idea to make concept series and emphasizing ideas, approaches to your drummer influences. For example, Jim Gordon, Jeff, Keltner, Purdy, etc. Their approach to time, timekeeping, fills, groove, feel. What were their strong points or low points? What to listen to? What to focus on? Maybe by showing examples of theirs and how to incorporate it into your own plan. Good idea. Good point. Now, Ask Earl Anything should be done often, he said, and he doesn't like to wait for a month to have his question answered. I don't blame him on that one. So this is going to make your questions come out a little quicker. P.S. My question would be, have you ever encountered a drum set that completely blew you away on how good it was? And what do you think which drum set would have a fast response? By that I mean if you even don't touch it with sticks, you just tap on it with your fingers, the skins, they immediately respond. I mean, sensitive wise. Okay. And Sunrise Blues 5150's name is Alan, by the way, because I said thanks, Alan, in the feedback. So, Alan, first off, there's so many great drum kits. There are so many great drum kits. There's not many drum manufacturers that I wouldn't say I wouldn't want a drum kit from. To be honest, if you're talking pro level, I don't think there's a pro level drum kit from any of the major manufacturers that is not a great drum kit. For me, when it comes to a great drum kit, I kind of tend to go for kits that were great in the day when I was looking for drum kits back in the late 70s, okay, early 80s. I bought this kit in 1979. I found Gretsch. Those manufacturers from that day, those are the ones that I would tend to think are the greatest drums. So we're talking about the Ludwigs, the Slingerlands, the Gretsch, the Rogers, even the Tamas and the Pearls and the Sonars. All those guys made pro-level drums that were great. Now, I bought Gretsch because that was the kit in New York City they were selling at Professional Percussion Center. And they said, this is what the guys play, you want them. They weren't wrong. This ended up being the studio kit of the 80s. Every studio drummer in the 80s had a Gretsch kit hanging around. Okay? Be it Jeff Porcaro or John J.R. Robinson or Vinnie Colaiuta. And all these guys endorsed other drum companies. Okay? Jeff was a Pearl guy. Vinnie was a Yamaha guy. JR was a Yamaha guy. The only guy I can think of that stayed pretty close to the drum kit that he always played was Gadd. Gadd always seemed to have Yamaha, but his kit that he made for himself started with a Gretsch 20-inch bass drum or 22-inch bass drum and went with Pearl fiberglass concert toms they put double heads on. Rick Murata's kit was Gretsch, and he put Gretsch concert toms, double-headed toms on. He made them double-headed toms. So the guys I looked up to, they were all pretty much playing Gretsch all the time. That was the studio kits. And then the 80s came around, and then you started to see these great drum manufacturers from Japan making great drums like Yamaha, Pearl, Tama. It wouldn't be till the 90s that DW would be noticed, but DW was making drums in the 80s, but it just really hadn't taken root yet, you know. My favorite drummer, Danny Serafin, played DW drums in 87, 88, I guess. He started playing them. He went from Slingerland to Yamaha like everybody, and then he ended up in DW. So they all make great drums. Now, with that being said, my favorite drums, the drums I always thought were great, were the Yamaha Recording Customs, the Tama Superstars, Birch. I've never had a Birch kit. I've played on Birch kits, but I've never had a Birch kit. I love Birch kits. I one time had an opportunity to play down in a church in South Florida, closer to Miami. It was actually in Broward County in Fort Lauderdale area. My friend Marco DeCiccio, he sent me on his gig, and I played his black Yamaha Recording Custom kit. Loved it. Great kit. So when you get to play these great kits, you know they're awesome. But Gretsch kits, to me, they're the bomb. I mean, I've been a Gretsch player for a long time. I bought this in '79. I've had this kit a long time. This kit will go to my grandkids. So is there some magical kit that's out there? I think the magical kit is the kit that you see, that turns you on, that turns your head, and you go, wow, I want to have it. Now, I always wanted to play a Craviotto kit, to be honest. I don't have that fascination anymore. I had a Noble Cooley kit. I love Noble Cooley snare drums, and I had a Noble Cooley kit for a while. My friend Scott, we traded the little Gretsch kit that's over in the corner over here for the Noble Cooley kit. Noble Cooley kit, I recorded an album with that. Great, great kit. So I haven't played any kit that's that awesome that I wouldn't, if it's a pro level kit, that I wouldn't play. But all the top manufacturers make the best. I'm talking about top of the end kits. Matter of fact, I think looking at today's top end kits, the kit that turns me on the most is the Tama Star kit. I think the Tama Star kit looks the coolest, to be honest. I don't think I would buy a modern day Yamaha Recording Custom kit. I would want an old one. But of the modern kits today, I have to tell you that Tama Star kit is really a beautiful drum kit. So I guess of a modern kit, I would go Tama Star. But when I look back at the drums I love, it's all the older kits. So that's where I go to. And that's an awesome question, Alan. Thank you for it. The next question is more of a comment from Brent3760, a longtime follower. He said, this is a suggestion for what to do with your show. Earl, I'm also on the big gear geek side, especially when it comes to cymbals. Could you do an episode on particular snare or ride or hi-hat, the history of the item to you and the drumming world, and what album it was on and who played that model? And that'd be cool. Well, great thought, and that's one of those things that I want to take on as possibility of actually turning a show into, doing some equipment things. I do have some videos on perfect ride cymbal, but these things need to be updated. So it's time to make some of those changes. Thanks for the idea, Brent. The next one comes from my friend Greg Oneoff. He asked the question, I would love to see a video. It's not a question, a comment. I would love to see a video of you and Asher, my grandson, playing together. I'm setting up and working on that too. Part of miking up the little Gretsch kit is so we can play in a room together and do some jams. So that's another idea for a show that Greg Oneoff came off with, and I look forward to trying to do that. So in the future, I'm going to try to pull that one together. Great point. The next question comes from Stephen Purdy. Hey, Mr. Earl, I used to be a dedicated Ludwig player. About 15 years ago, I started to notice that the Japanese drums, just like their cars, are a better product for the money. I now own 2 beautiful Tama kits that I couldn't be happier. I have long wondered if Sonor drums are really the best, worth the extra money. You never see them in music stores. To compare to yourself as a consumer or a musician. What are your thoughts on my question? All right, Stephen, again, another question about drums and quality of drums. Let me say something about the Sonor drums. I have played on a few Sonor kits. There's a Sonor kit like Desert Island. If I have a Desert Island Sonor kit, it's the Sonor Beach, Sonarphonic Beach Rosewood kit from the 70s. Those drums were so cool. They had rosewood veneer inside and outside. By the way, they're making that kit again. So I think there's a limited edition of them. And Sonor just had a real huge push because they got a new endorser last month. His name is Todd Schuckerman. Todd Schuckerman was a longtime Sonor player, went to Pearl for a long time. But if you ever watched any of his videos back in the day, 5 years ago even, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, you see his massive Pearl kit, but in the corner, you see a Sonor kit, 2 or 3 Sonor kits. He was a Sonor endorser, and he loved Sonor drums. There are guys like Steve Smith that have been playing Sonor their whole life. Sonor is the Rolls Royce of drums, so they are really great drums. They are really expensive drums. But I think they make a beautiful product, and I would love to have a Sonor kit if I could get my hands on one. Of course, there isn't a drum that I would turn down in the studio, by the way. Except for maybe one of even those made in Japan kits from the 70s. I'd love to have one of those too. Just those kits that when I was a kid would have never wanted. I'd love to find one of those today. But to find some, beater sound percussion kit from Sam Ash would not turn me on. So that's what you find like on Facebook Marketplace. I wouldn't even take that kit from anybody. But Sonor makes great drums. Definitely. There's a real push for them this year, and they're getting distribution again in the United States. So you might start to see them in the shop soon. That's a possibility. All right, Steve. My next question and my last question for the first Ask Earl Anything show is going to be Vince Gomez, 1212. Vince is a long-time follower, long-time Ask Earl Anything question person. And he asked the question, I've taught mostly kids about 10 to 16 years old. Someone wants me to teach their 5-year-old. How differently would you approach such a young student? Thanks again. All right. Well, first off, Vince, it's hard teaching young kids, really small kids. I did try this. I did a few lessons with younger kids. My son, who I talk about occasionally, who's not here with me anymore, he was a guitar teacher. He said teaching young kids was really hard. And what you had to do is find something they were interested in and keep them on that and get them engaged. If they don't get engaged, they're not going to want to do it. So I have my grandson, who's now going to be 7. I'm taking him out for breakfast tomorrow. His name is Elliot. When he comes in, we do things for years. We've done things like call and response, where I'll go, he'll go. So call and response is something you can do with young kids. Now, if you're going to make them sit on a pad and just do mommy, daddy, rolls and stuff, it's probably not going to turn them on. So the sooner you can get them to something that makes them excited about what they're doing, it's great, especially if it's something that if they have the coordination to play. So as soon as they can sit at a kit and play a groove, that's the starting point. And the most basic groove is so keep that in mind. Once you can get them in a groove, then you can show them music with it. But probably where you're going to start is getting their hands to do certain things and just answer your drum thoughts. It's not going to be really high end unless the kid's got some natural rhythm and he wants to go for some stuff. The other thing is their technique's going to continue to change over time because their hands are small and they're going to keep growing. So early on, technique isn't going to work exactly, but you just got to try to get them to hold the sticks pretty close to the proper way. Don't let them do stupid stuff like this, like I'm playing like this way, which doesn't make any sense, like here's the way I'm playing. You got to make them hold the sticks the right way, but realize they're not going to be working on power strokes or molar or any of that craziness. That's not going to happen. If you can get them to sit there and do a mommy, daddy at that tempo, you've got a 5-year-old engaged. That's important. So think about little games you can play with them. Again, I have no desire to teach young little kids, even my grandson. I'd rather sit here and bang a little bit and let him bang a little bit and let him go off for a little bit and then I'd say, all right, we've had enough of this, let's go. And that's what I did with my grandson Asher. And then one day he started locking grooves down. The next thing I know, I've got him playing. And once you get him playing, that's when you get into stuff. So usually about 7 or 8, you can get him to do this. Then what I did with Asher was I introduced, let's play that groove and then let's play a fill. So it would be something like this, 3 bars of groove and then a fill. starting point. And when you play that game, you eventually get to play in the game different ways. He plays a little bit, then you play a little bit. Then he plays a little bit, then you play a little bit. Or she plays, whatever it is, whatever your kid is that you're teaching. But playing games with them, getting them engaged, playing along with them, that's when it becomes fun to them. And it's a lot, that's really the cool thing for them. So keep that in mind, Vince. I would say that's the direction I would go if I was doing a young kid. Anyhow, all that to say is, thank you for watching Ask Earl Anything. Without your show, without questions, we don't have a show. And the show is dependent upon questions. So I look forward to getting lots of questions. We're going to continue to try to do this. And there will be another segment of Ask Earl Anything in February. So thank you all for watching. And here's a little bit of Kelly Kusumoto, who spent some time in my studio. Bye.